Today, we're going to explore a reality that kind of sits on the very edge of existence and non-existence. Today, we're going to explore a reality that kind of sits on the very edge of existence and non-existence. It's a concept from way back in the past that, believe it or not, might just help us unlock a puzzle of our own digital future. So let's start with a question. And it kicks off with something you've probably heard a ton about lately, those strange, sometimes bizarre errors made by artificial intelligence. But here's the twist. What if those very mistakes, what people are calling AI hallucinations, could actually teach us something really profound about a mystical worldview from, get this, 800 years ago? You see, these AI hallucinations are so strange. They aren't just spitting back out their training data, but they aren't just spewing random garbage either. They create stuff that seems plausible, totally structured, but it just isn't true. They live in this fascinating in-between space, somewhere between what's real and what's not. And this idea, this concept of a middle ground, a world in between, is exactly what we're going to unpack. It turns out this very modern, techie problem has a surprisingly ancient counterpart. So let's jump back in time, all the way to the 13th century. There was this Andalusian mystic, Ibn Arabi, who described a universe that had an intermediate world, a realm that wasn't purely spiritual, but wasn't purely physical either. He had a name for it, the Barzakh. And as you'll see, it's an incredible way to think about that in-between space. Okay, so what exactly is the Barzakh? The word in Arabic literally means an isthmus, or a barrier. Think about the line where sunlight meets shadow. You can't actually touch that line, right? It isn't sun and it isn't shadow, but it's the barrier that defines them both. That's the Barzakh. And this is where it gets really mind-bending. The Barzakh is a reality that is, somehow, both existent and non-existent at the same time. It's knowable, yet unknowable. It's affirmed as being real, but at the very same time, you have to deny it. I know it sounds like a contradiction, but just stick with me here. Ibn Arabi actually points to scripture to help explain this. This verse describes two seas that meet, but they don't mix because they're separated by this invisible barzakh. It's a barrier that separates, sure, but it's also the very thing that lets two different realities touch each other. So how in the world do we get our heads around this paradox? How can something be both real and not real? Well, Ibn Arabi gives us this just beautiful, simple analogy to help us grasp it. I mean, our logical minds, they want to put everything in nice, neat boxes. Either it's real or it's unreal. But this idea forces us to think differently. And the key is actually something you and I see every single day. It's as simple as looking in a mirror. Go ahead, look at your reflection. You see your face. That image is real, you can affirm it. It exists. But you also know your face isn't literally inside the glass. You have to deny its physical location. That reflection, real but not real, affirmed but denied, that is a perfect everyday experience of the barzakh. Now, this next point is absolutely crucial. We're not talking about something being imaginary, in the sense that it's fake or just in your head. Ibn Arabi used a term that's better translated as imaginal. This isn't some subjective fantasy. No, it's an objective, genuine plane of existence. It has its own kind of reality. So where do we actually bump into this imaginal world? Well, we enter it every single night in our dreams. It's the place where abstract spiritual ideas can take on real physical forms, where a concept like death can literally show up as a spotted ram, or where all of our deeds can be physically put on a scale and weighed. But for Ibn Arabi, this realm isn't just some personal internal space like a dream. No, it has a cosmic structure, and he describes it with this really powerful and kind of counterintuitive metaphor. He calls this whole imaginal realm the sur, which means the horn. It's described as a horn made of pure light, and its shape actually reveals the structure of reality itself. Okay, but here's the really wild part. The horn is upside down. The highest point of reality, this pure divine unity, the single source of everything, is actually the narrowest tip. And as creation unfolds and manifests, the horn gets wider and wider until it reaches its broadest base, which is the complex, multiple physical world we see all around us. So you can just forget the usual pyramid idea where the top is the biggest and the best. In this vision, the ultimate reality is the most singular, concentrated point, and our physical world, in all its vastness, is actually the furthest away from that single source. It totally flips our normal idea of a hierarchy on its head. A good way to think about it is with numbers. All numbers, right? No matter how huge and complex they all come from the simple, single reality of the number one. And in the same way, all of creation just flows from a single, unified source. So, if this cosmic, imaginal realm really exists, what does that mean for us? Well, it means we have a specific way to perceive it, a way of seeing that goes beyond just logic or our physical senses. This is our human ability to connect with the barzakh. It's a kind of perception that lets us see spiritual truths in tangible forms, to grasp things that our rational mind, all on its own, would just dismiss as impossible. The key is hidden in this famous prophetic saying, "Worship God as though you see him." That little phrase, "as though," that's the doorway, that's the key to the imaginal. It's basically an instruction to use this faculty, to perceive a reality that's beyond the physical wall right in front of you. And this leads us to the final and maybe the most profound paradox in this entire idea. If we are using this imaginal sight to see the divine, then who or what is actually doing the looking? Ibn Arabi's answer is just staggering. He says that when you perceive the divine in the imaginal realm, you're not seeing with your own eyes, you are seeing with God's eye. The observer and the observed just become one, because, as he says, none sees him but him. And that brings us all the way back to where we started. From AI hallucinations to ancient mysticism, we find ourselves looking at these images that exist between worlds. And it leaves us with one final big question to chew on. If all of reality is just a reflection in a divine mirror, what does it truly mean for any of us to see?